FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
We all know that the government's going to get funded. The only question is whether the government gets funded with Obamacare or without it. And what I'm saying is that the president has said he's not ready to implement the law. He's said that the law isn't ready for prime time. And so if he's not ready, if the law's not ready, we can't fund it.
Seems like a simple enough logic, don't you think so? If the law is unworkable, if it is at this point basically unenforceable, if you have hundreds of waivers being issued, and if you already see the pain that it's causing the middle class, not to mention the number of people that have to be hired for, I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's no way that this can be implemented. It can't fully be implemented. And that's again why a large part of it is being delayed until conveniently after the election. So all of the freebies will be given out and the pain is delayed. We're going to, in just a minute, talk with Senator Ted Cruz about this because there are a number of different ways that Republicans are going after this right now in Congress. You have some efforts in the House. You know, we've talked to Congressman Tom Price about his legislative effort to get Obamacare out from the domain of the IRS, who, by the way, want to be exempt from Obamacare, which I think is adorable. The National Treasury Employees Union, they're urging members to write congressional representatives in opposition to receiving Obamacare. They don't want it, but they are willing to take your dollars to force you to comply with it, which is adorable. And then, of course, you also have multiple efforts in the Senate to battle Obamacare. You have Senator Ted Cruz with his bill that he has introduced. A number of lawmakers have signed on to this bill, including Missouri Senator Roy Blunt, who I wish would also sign Mike Lee's letter. And then, of course, you have Senator Mike Lee's letter, who says that they will fight the continuing resolution if it includes Obamacare funding. They're not for shutting down the government. They're simply for saying, let's wait on Obamacare funding. You can't implement it. Let's wait for Obamacare funding. But Democrats are insistent. They want to tie this to the funding of the government. Joining me right now, Senator Ted Cruz, whose bill is receiving a lot of Republican support on defunding Obamacare. Good afternoon to you, Senator.
Dana, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, always. This has received a ton of support in the Senate. I know that there's been a little bit of some disagreement amongst the Republican brethren, so to speak, as to how to approach the defunding and the repeal. You have some who say, well, let's just go for full-on repeal. I kind of look at it like I think that every attempt to stop it should be taken because I think that after we get to a certain point, it's gonna be impossible to fight it. What is your take on this?
Dana, I think you're exactly right. Right now is, in my view, our single best opportunity to defeat Obamacare, and it may well be our last opportunity. Obamacare isn't working. The wheels are coming off. As you know, the lead Senate author, Democrat Max Baucus, has described it publicly as a, quote, huge train wreck. The unions are turning on President Obama. I mean, the president of the Teamsters, James Hoffa, said that Obamacare is destroying the 40-hour work week that is the foundation, the backbone of the American middle class. And most strikingly, even President Obama has been forced to admit failure when just a few weeks ago he unilaterally and contrary to law delayed the employer mandate for large corporations until after the next election. Now, Dana, there are two important conclusions you can derive from President Obama's decision to delay the employer mandate. Number one, if Obamacare were a good thing, if it were working, he would want it to kick in before the next election. The fact that he doesn't want it to come into effect, the employer mandate, until after the next election indicates that this thing is not working and people realize it and he's afraid of electoral accountability. But number two, what a stunning admission. Why is President Obama willing to give an exemption, a waiver to large corporations, but not to hardworking American families? This selective enforcement picking winners and losers, and sadly the losers over and over again are the American taxpayers, hardworking Americans. That's why I think right now is the best time to stand and fight to defund Obamacare, and we have our best opportunity to do so on September 30th, the continuing resolution which funds the federal government. It expires on September 30th, and that's the best opportunity if Republicans stand together to actually win this fight.
What do you make of the criticisms of some? I've read a couple of editorials from Business Insider. You have some of your colleagues in the Senate who say, oh, well, this is silly to try to fight this continuing resolution because they'll just say that Republicans are eager to shut down government. Do you think that this is some of your colleagues who are afraid of fighting a winnable media narrative?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think there is a powerful defeatist approach among Republicans in Washington. I think they're beaten down and they're convinced we can't give a fight, and they're terrified. Here's how I think this should play out, Dana, which is that I think the House of Representatives should pass a continuing resolution that funds the entire federal government, except for Obamacare, and it should explicitly prohibit spending federal money on Obamacare. Now, the next step, we know what's going to happen. We've seen this play before. President Obama and Harry Reid will scream and yell about those mean, terrible Republicans who want to shut down the government. And then we've got to stand up and fight. We've got to make the argument, no. We have voted to keep funding the American federal government. We want to keep the government running. Why is it that Barack Obama wants to shut down the federal government in order to force Obamacare down people's throats? He's granted a waiver for giant corporations. Why is he willing to shut down the federal government to deny the hardworking American families that same waiver that he's giving giant corporations? We've got to win that argument and win that fight, and a lot of Republicans are afraid of doing that.
And it seems as though that this is possible in terms of fighting this within the construct of the continuing resolution. And it seems, until really, everyone wants to repeal it, but, elections do have consequences. We didn't get control of the Senate. So the next best option is defunding it. And it seems, I wish more people understood, as you and Senator Lee and a few others, that fighting it via continuing resolution is the last best option before those freebies start flowing.
Well, that's exactly right. The Obama administration's plan is to get to January 1, because on January 1, the exchanges start, the subsidies start. And their plan is to get everyone addicted to the sugar, addicted to the subsidies. And look, in modern age, there has been no major entitlement plan that's been enacted that's ever been repealed. So this is our last chance to take out Obamacare. And every one of those Republicans who says, let's not fight on the continuing resolution, what they're really saying is we should surrender to Obamacare being a permanent feature of our economy, because once the subsidies kick in, and not only the subsidies, but President Obama has eliminated the eligibility verification so that it's essentially encouraging liar loans, encouraging anyone to go and say, yeah, I want a subsidy, and the government doesn't even check to see if you qualify for it.
Right.
And that is all designed, it's Chicago-style vote buying, to try to get people hooked on this. And so if we don't take it out now, in all likelihood we never will. And there are a lot of Republicans, unfortunately, who want symbolic votes. I mean, the House has voted, 39, 40, 41 times to repeal Obamacare. All of those were empty symbolic votes because they had no chance of passing. This is a fight where if 41 Republicans stand together in the Senate, or if 218 Republicans stand together in the House, we can win this fight. We don't have to get a single Democrat vote. If we simply stand for principle and say under no circumstances will we vote to fund Obamacare, and we go and win the message, we can win this fight.
Absolutely. It is a winnable narrative, and I'm glad to see you and others out there really selling this to the American people. I mean, the fact that the president has to hire so much of Hollywood to go out and sell Obamacare, that should be a huge sign, as well as the latest polling, too. NBC News, Wall Street Journal show that Obamacare is more unpopular now than it ever has been. And I wish that everyone could get on the same page in recognizing that in the Senate.
Well, I for one, have always thought that rich, out-of-touch Hollywood celebrities understand what it's like to be a hardworking American family. And I find it a little ironic that the Obama administration thinks that those are the folks that are going to relate to people who are working hard to climb the economic ladder and to achieve the American dream. But let me say a broader point, and this is probably the most important point to underscore. If conventional Washington rules apply, we can't win this fight. If the only way to win is to persuade others in the Republican cloakroom, it ain't going to happen because too many Republicans are scared of this fight. So I cannot win this fight. Mike Lee can't win this fight. Marco Rubio can't win this fight. The only way to win this fight is if the American people get engaged by the millions. It's why we've launched a national website, don'tfundit.com, don'tfundit.com. If thousands upon thousands or millions of Americans stand up, go to the website, sign the national petition, and then call our senators, our elected representatives, and say, enough already with the empty symbolic votes. Stand for principle now and don't fund it. If we make it so that for an elected official it is riskier to do the wrong thing than it is to do the right thing, the American people can win this fight. No politician can, but we the people. And so if your listeners want to see Obamacare actually defunded, and this is our best opportunity, I would urge every one of your listeners, please go to don'tfundit.com, sign the petition, call your senator, call your representative, and then get 10 of your friends to do the same. That's how we win this fight, is if the American people stand together.
Absolutely. Senator Ted Cruz, we appreciate all of your hard work in D.C. We look forward to talking with you again soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks for everything you're doing, Dana.
Take care.